there, and that does indicate, bearing in mind it's a 45-lap race, and normally these drivers and teams have a strategy of stopping at exactly 30, and in comes Verstappen there. Verstappen coming into the pits, again the right thing for him to do, because he was being held up by the Ligier. The Ligier with its Renault engine is very quick indeed down the straights, about 10 miles an hour faster than Verstappen in fact. Into the pits he comes. Very difficult as a driver, you know, to judge. We had a quick glimpse of it from Verstappen. Oh, and fuel, that's the first time we've had a fuel splash. Oh my goodness me!
Well, now, just let's keep calm. There are a lot of fire officials down there, and the fire is already out. And remember, when Gerhard Berger had his car burst into flames in Imola and he was sitting in the car unconscious, the fire marshals still got him out in plenty of time. And Verstappen should not have been in that car for more than a couple of seconds or so. They have medical air piped through to their helmets in case of a problem like this. And you can see the Benetton down there, and I cannot see Verstappen in it, so they've got him out safely. But that's the first time that the thing that everybody has feared since the reintroduction of refueling has happened, a blowback as a result, I guess, and I hope I'm not maligning him, the mechanic involved with the fueler pulling out the actual nozzle just a fraction too soon after he'd had the signal, or maybe a fraction before he'd had the signal, but for whatever, fire has been put out, and that's a good thing because it indicates that all the safety procedures here at Hockenheim have worked immaculately in that situation. And with Verstappen out, the situation on lap 17, as you look at the lone Ferrari, is that he, Gerhard Berger, is leading the German Grand Prix. Replay.
Right, there was the replay there. Now, when the nozzle came out of that, that was supposed to seal it. The fuel splashed, and see how 3 seconds later, that tremendous inferno there. Verstappen in the middle of it must have been absolutely terrified. I saw him get out of the car after the fire marshals did a superb job. And in fact, the team have their own mechanics there. They're all in fireproof clothing. They all have extinguishers. They put the fire out very quickly indeed. But dreadfully frightening moment for Verstappen. The first time, as we've said, it's happened this year, but proves that it can happen. But those couplings should have self-sealed. That should not have been able to happen. That fuel is under a modest amount of pressure, and we saw that what must have been 2 or 3 gallons there spraying out. And clearly, with the heat that surrounds these cars, it was virtually...
Maybe I misunderstood the situation, or maybe something went wrong. Well, no doubt about the fact that something went wrong, but thank heavens everything has turned out well. And Gerhard Berger now, is he coming into the pits? It doesn't look like it, actually. Michael Schumacher really trying. He's really pushing that Benetton now.
And the reason that Schumacher's trying so hard is that he will now know that Berger, in fact, is not on a 2-stop routine. He's only going to stop once. I'm sure that's the conclusion, unless there's something that we don't know, but it's now lap 17. Berger's lapping quickly as well. That's what's particularly impressive. And I'd expect Berger to stay out now until about lap 20, lap 22, before he comes in for his one solitary stop. And it's really the only time we shall know which of these two strategies, that Schumacher stopping twice, Berger stopping once, was the better, will be round about 2/3 distance, round about lap 30, lap 35, and we see how they compare on the track at that time. Now, having said that, we're looking at Ferrari pit. Looks like they are ready with tyres.
Well, David Coulthard, who incidentally is just left the pits, is the fastest man on the course so far. There he is getting away. His fastest lap is also the fastest lap of the race. 1 minute 46.2. Obviously a great deal slower than the fastest lap last year. The lap record held by Riccardo Patrese, 1 minute 41. So it's a good 5 seconds dynamics, and that is Schumacher locking up again. He's not doing his new set of tyres any good.
Yes, he locked up there on the inside of the hairpin. That's the Sachs curve. He locked up the left front wheel. It's a left-hand tyres. The wheels come completely off the ground momentarily. So it's a fact it's very easy to lock a wheel, and providing it is lightly loaded, as it will be actually turning into the corner, there's little chance of a flat spot. And by that we mean the fact that when the tyre's not turning and it scrapes along the ground with a wheel locked, it'll just wear that rubber down incredibly quickly. So a driver really has to avoid that kind of thing, but I think that will not prove a significant problem for Schumacher.
Has been in Grand Prix racing for 10 years, over 10 years, because he started off with the ATS team as long ago as 1984. A lot of Grand Prix wins behind him now, 8 of them with Ferrari. He was with Ferrari previously before he joined McLaren with Ayrton Senna, for whom he had 3 victories And this is a very obvious sign that the Ferrari team are going to bring Gerhard Berger in, I would guess, at the end of his 20th lap, which he is on now. And Michael Schumacher is in trouble. Did you see that burst of smoke from the back of the car? Jonathan, your view?
Well, his engine sounded dreadful. Just as he came past us in the commentary box, the engine sounded dreadful. I am sure Michael Schumacher has a terminal engine problem there.
Well, he's been forcing, yes, that is Schumacher, to win his home Grand Prix at a World Championship event. And Michael Schumacher looks to me as though he is virtually touring in now. Something very dramatic has happened at the back of the car. I'm not going to say it was engine because I don't know, but, you're looking back at him now. And he's banging his fist in sheer agonised frustration. And that was Olivier Panis in the Ligier Renault passing him to move up to second. When was Ligier last second in a Grand Prix? I'm sorry, I can't tell you. I haven't got that sort of computer mind, but it was a long, long time ago. And Frank Durney, who interestingly enough, was at Benetton, Michael Schumacher's race engineer, until he took command of the technical aspects of Ligier only in the British Grand Prix. And Gerhard Berger is coming in to the pits. Now, he's safe. He will have had a message from the Ferrari radio system to say that Michael Schumacher is out because they can watch television just as easily as we can. And you are watching race leader Gerhard Berger, who is now 32 seconds ahead of Olivier Panis, making what may be his only tyre stop.
It's quite a long stop there for Gerhard Berger. Looks like they may have... No, he's okay. He is putting a lot of fuel on board that car. In fact, he's for sure lost about 6 seconds, 6 or 7 seconds, though. He should have had, I think, about 9 or 10 seconds worth of fuel. He stopped on lap 20. That's as we thought for making just one stop. But some kind of a problem. I don't think it'll cause him any significant problem in terms of the result, as Schumacher comes into the pits now, and that surely must mean retirement for Schumacher.
And it's a very, very close thing for first place at the moment, because as Gerhard Berger drove out of the pit lane, thundering past the commentary boxes, which are on the start and finish area, went Olivier Panis. But during the race, Berger was lapping, of course, a lot quicker, and this indeed is the bitter sight for the people in the grandstands and for the Benetton team of Michael Schumacher, who has won so many races this year that even with his penalty after Britain, he's leading the World Championship by 27 points, retiring from the German Grand Prix.
Yes, Michael Schumacher there shaking his head in disbelief. You cannot believe it. Home Grand Prix, car in tremendous shape, confident in qualifying, and here we are actually. That's Gerhard Berger simply pulling away now from the Ligiers. They actually have not stopped, and that's why they are so close to Gerhard Berger, but the Ligiers are going to have to make one stop, both on the same strategy, and I think we can expect them to come into the pits within the next 2 or 3 laps. But there he is, the German. Incidentally, this is the first failure, I believe, that the Ford Zetec engine has had all year. The Benetton really has been a model of reliability. Verstappen's powdered fire extinguisher, powdered covered car in the background. And incidentally, if you wondered what the puff of smoke was, or the puff of, in fact, what was dust, as Berger came in for his pit stop, that was as Berger drove through the Benetton.
Pulled out of the race. Indeed, I'm beginning to wonder how many people are going to finish the German Grand Prix. There were only 12 left running when Martin Brundle stopped, so that's down to 11 now. And you're watching Gerhard Berger on his 22nd lap, having made his tyre stop. There is the Ligier behind him in second place. So Berger leads. Tony Jardine has news for us.
Yeah, I'm behind the Benetton pit, and Michael Schumacher's just walked past dejectedly, but there is some good news, because I've had it confirmed by the team that everybody is A-OK. Jos Verstappen is back in the motorhome. He's all right. And one of the mechanics that was very slightly burnt in the face has come out to say, please tell everybody at home we're A-OK.
Good news. Thank you, Tony Jardine. And that is Olivier Panis in the Ligier Renault, hardly believing his luck, I am quite sure, because the car he can see ahead of him, and the only car ahead of him in the race, is the race leader, Gerhard Berger. So, who is this man, Olivier Panis? Well, I can tell you that he comes from Lyon. This is only his 9th Grand Prix, and he's in second place. And He's had a tremendously reliable season. That's Bernard behind him with the red flash. So you saw the first 3 cars, Ferrari, Ligier. This is Eric Bernard, who comes from Istres. This is his 40th Grand Prix, and by no means his first team, because he's driven for Lola, he's driven for Ligier before. He had to drop out of Grand Prix racing because he broke his leg very badly, and it took a long time for it to recover. And that is Martin Brundle, helmet off. He's got a ball patch, I don't think he'll like that. Martin Brundle is being pulled away in the McLaren.
Yeah, it's been a very tough weekend for Martin Brundle, in fact, because after having some handling problems on the first day of qualifying on the Friday, on the Saturday, they've made some changes, as in there comes one of the Ligiers for its pit stop there. That's the Ligier there coming into the stop. Good stop there, very good stop, bearing in mind. Yes, it is Panis, just to cover there. Panis coming out, that should mean that Bernard will come in very soon, as Christian Fittipaldi comes in also for his one stop in the footwork. There goes Panis out of the pits, but Brundle actually had to give his car up in second qualifying to his teammate Mika Häkkinen after Häkkinen had his big off, so he only got a couple of laps in qualifying, and of course now he could have been for sure in a chance of a top 3 position, and he will be mortified to find that sadly he's been stopped once again, and it's been as often as not for engine this year. We don't know what the cause is, but perhaps we can find out.
Well, this is the half-distance lap in the German Grand Prix of Olivier Panis when it came in, has made his tyre stop, and at the present moment it's Berger leading, Bernard is second in the second Ligier, in the first Ligier, and Panis is third in the second Ligier. In 4th position, a very well-deserved 4th position, is young Christian Fittipaldi, the nephew of the great double world champion Emerson Fittipaldi, who's doing so well in Indy racing now, and the son of Wilson Fittipaldi. His teammate Gianni Morbidelli, Eric Bernard in the Ligier. That means to say that Panis, his teammate, has moved up into second place. So the Ligier team waiting, and now on top of the Ligier Renault car. Well, Renault haven't had much joy with Williams here in Germany, because David Coulthard is out of the race. Damon Hill, by the way, is in 10th position. There he is in the pits, and he is still a lap behind the leaders. Watch his pit stop. I'll give you the order, because it's Berger, Panis, Bernard, first, second and third. Fittipaldi 4th, Morbidelli 5th, Comas is 6th, Beretta is 7th, Dunant is 8th, Brabham is 9th, both the Simtex running and higher than they have ever been. Damon Hill in 10th place, you see him leaving the pits now.
Yes, very good pit stop there from the Williams team on that occasion, but sadly Damon Hill's going to sliding his way through one of these slow second gear chicanes. He's doing about 60 miles an hour. Watch one of those front wheels. Normally they come off the ground round about now. There it goes. See it just pouring in the air. The suspensions on these
problems right at the beginning of the race. Tell us what happened.
Well, I didn't make the best start, and I was a bit slow into second gear. Häkkinen tried to come up my inside and Blundell down the outside, and they're both crazy, so they both tried to squeeze me, not realising they've got another crazy man at the side of me. So with both of them doing that, Häkkinen hit my front wheel, but then went across and took off my front wing and took out Blundell as well. So, you know, he's been involved in a lot of things, and I'm not happy about it.
And your reason for your final retirement?
We have a gearbox problem, so just when we thought things couldn't get worse with having to stop for a nose, then we had a gearbox problem, so I was jammed in top gear.
Well, you're not happy, but hard luck, you're okay. Thank you, David Coulthard.
Swinging criticism of Mika Häkkinen from David Coulthard. A lot of people may well think it was justified, because Häkkinen has certainly been involved in a lot of incidents this year. But Berger is still leading, and he's now in the Ferrari 31 seconds ahead of the Ligier Renault of Olivier Panis.
Yes, Häkkinen is certainly, undoubtedly, very quick indeed, but he's also impetuous. And from what we saw at the start, from our camera looking at that start, I felt that Häkkinen had swept across the front of Coulthard, and both Coulthard and Mark Blundell seem to have endorsed that. So I think could be fair to say that is the case. Now, of course, Häkkinen was responsible for two other, or certainly involved in two other start line incidents. He touched Senna up the back off the line at the second Grand Prix of the year at Aida in Japan, and that was totally down to his own misjudgment of Senna's braking point. Häkkinen was going too quickly, too far into the corner. And then at Monaco we had the incident, as you may remember, when Hill and Häkkinen tangled. We thought at the moment that at the time that Hill had actually come up the back of Häkkinen, but indeed there was certainly evidence that Häkkinen had swept across in front of Hill. He's certainly done that this time here at Hockenheim, and I think that maybe the time has come for the stewards to have a look at his driving. He certainly, I think, needs to settle down a bit in his start line antics.
Well, you are looking now at the battle for fourth position between Christian Fittipaldi in the Footwork and his teammate Gianni Morbidelli, with thundering up behind them to unlap himself, hopefully, Damon Hill in the Williams. So Fittipaldi, number 10 is Gianni Morbidelli, who's driven once for the Ferrari team in 1990 in Australia, when he took sixth position in that desperately wet race and got half a point for his trouble. But to have driven for Ferrari at all is a privilege, and to have got half a World Championship point is a double privilege. And here is the man who's got plenty of World Championship points, Gerhard Berger, lap 26 out of 45. And I know, and I'm one of them, that Ferrari enthusiasts all around the world will be keeping their fingers crossed and hoping that Gerhard Berger, who has fought so hard and so long with the Ferrari technicians and management to get the team up to pace again, is going to be able to stay where he is, that the new V12 engine will prove to be reliable, and that Gerhard Berger will win the German Grand Prix, but there are still 19 laps to go.
I must say, I'd love to see him do just that. Gerhard Berger, I thought, was on the verge of retiring after the tragedies at Imola. Of course, Berger and Senna were teammates at McLaren, and very happy teammates for a very long time. And we're actually running with Hill now as he comes up to unlap himself, and he should do that reasonably easily. He won't want to get taken out into the stadium, he goes. But Berger was deeply moved and deeply upset, with understandable reasons, with his close association with Senna. He thought about retiring, and his performances in the early part of the year really had one wondering whether or not that was pretty much towards the front of his mind. But he certainly is not now. He's certainly really got the bit between his teeth, having something of an Indian summer, quite frankly. He's a driver who I thought was a little in his twilight. There's Hill unlapping himself from Gianni Morbidelli, but he's got to do that another time to actually overtake him. He's got to catch one complete lap up to really take that fifth place that is currently occupied by Morbidelli. He'll now come up and go by Fittipaldi, I'm sure, with relative ease. Berger really got the bit between his teeth, really driving very well indeed. He's out-qualified Lacey for the last two races, and he indeed is no slouch. He's one of the quickest drivers out there. There goes Hill past the footwork of Fittipaldi there, so he should be charging on his way, trying desperately to make up for lost time.
Fittipaldi fourth then, Morbidelli fifth. They're driving together, and I would imagine there's a replay of Damon Hill at about 200 miles an hour, passing Christian Fittipaldi in the Footwork, and I imagine the Footwork team will be saying to both Christian Fittipaldi and Morbidelli, do not do anything stupid. This is the 9th Grand Prix of the year. Gianni Morbidelli has yet to finish in a Grand Prix for the Footwork team. Fittipaldi's had 4 finishes, including a 4th place in the Pacific Grand Prix at Aida. But the Footwork team would dearly love double World Championship points for 4th and 5th places. And look at the gap there is now between Damon Hill and Fittipaldi behind him. So we've heard from almost everybody who's out of the race, from Tony Jardine. We haven't heard from Johnny Herbert. He's with Tony now.
Johnny, you were another one to suffer at the first corner. Give us your version.
Well, I was sort of after the first corner. Made a very good start, and I got ahead of Martin into the first corner, and then he came back at me into it as well. And I tried to fight it with him, and as we went round the corner, almost side by side, as he came over to use his line, I just ran out of room, and his rear wheel went over my front and broke the suspension.
So do you think it was just a problem of the driving rather than that corner, which has claimed a lot of accidents over the weekend?
Well, I think, it hasn't happened in the last couple of years from what I remember. So it's a corner. We always have a first corner in the end somewhere. So, the way it happened with, I think, with Mika as well, I think it was just one of those sort of starts that never went quite right.
Your luck must change soon.
Yeah, I hope so. It'd be nice to have a good race soon anyway.
Thank you, Johnny.
Thanks.
Well, that was certainly a great shame for Johnny Herbert there, because I thought he could figure pretty well. The Mugen engine was being used to good effect by the Lotus team this time, and has always been reliable, and Johnny Herbert's tended to get good results through reliability rather than through sheer pace, as was demonstrated with a 7th place at the French Grand Prix, and I think he could have done well here, as Damon Hill now comes up to unlap himself from the Simtek on his way.
Yeah, and he's left Simtek team, as you get the replay there of Jean-Marc Gounon being passed by Damon Hill. That's a slow motion of the Ferrari of Gerhard Berger going through the third chicane, the Senna curva, and Gerhard now 34 seconds lead. He hopefully, from his point of view, just has to keep the Ferrari running comfortably and reliably. He can even afford to come in and make a pit stop to take on a third set of tyres and still get out in the lead. But he goes through now to complete his 29th lap.
Well, I really wouldn't expect Gerhard Berger to come in once again.
And if it wins here, and that is Gianni Morbidelli coming in for his Footwork tyre stop from 5th position, and if Gerhard Berger does win here, he will match the McLaren record of 104 Grand Prix victories, admittedly from far more races for Ferrari than McLaren. But it's a great team that's always been in the World Championship, that has been at the top of sports car racing, is a legendary name with a charismatic personality, and the prancing horse, which you see on the yellow background of Gerhard Berger's Ferrari as he comes through the long right-hander to cross the grid and finish his 30th lap, is a sign of that team.
Well, hopefully,
as Hill goes through and unlaps himself from the third place man, Eric Bernard in the Ligier. Retirements then, 16 of them: Jean Alesi, Mika Häkkinen, Mark Blundell, Pierluigi Martini, Frentzen, Irvine, Barrichello, Johnny Herbert, Zanardi, Alboreto, Katayama, Coulthard, Verstappen, Michael Schumacher and Martin Brundle.
and as we watch these two cars, you can see the difference, not just between Bernard and Damon Hill, but between the two different chassis, because both of these cars have the same Renault V10 RS6 engine. There we go. There goes Hill into the second chicane, up the inside. Bernard giving him room. Good of him to do that. He should have done it, but nevertheless a number of drivers wouldn't. But these cars have identical engines. They should have more or less identical power, and it gives you a chance to see just how big the difference in performance of the chassis is. And I would think that's probably round about 3 seconds a lap between these two.
Lap 32 now. Berger 37 seconds ahead of Parnis. He's lapping a second faster than the Frenchman, who has every reason to drive a very steady race. The car behind him is his teammate, and he is 7 seconds behind. That is Eric Bernard. So Cesare Fiorio, who is the ex-Ferrari team manager and now the team manager for the Ligier team, with his new technical director Frank Durney, who's moved across from Benetton, because Benetton now, or rather the Benetton management, own the Ligier team. And I'm quite sure that not in their wildest moments would any of the Ligier drivers or management have thought, when they got up this morning, that they might be celebrating second and third places in the German Grand Prix. Well, they might even be doing better than that, but let's hope that Gerhard Berger does not retire.
And we can see, watching Berger with some 14 laps to go now, how he really has adopted very sensibly a very neat driving style. He's not using the curbs, whereas in qualifying, and indeed had he been pushed in the race, he would have been using the curbs on the inside of the corner, just trying to cut the corner that little bit more. And he just about does what I said. That was a bit of a relief, I must admit. Berger just immaculately clipping the inside, leaving literally half an inch. And one of the things that never ceases to amaze me watching Formula One is how the drivers can judge the position of the car to within inches at 100, 150 miles an hour. It's one of those subconscious judgments that just comes on, and one just develops that level of skill. Now watch Berger now. He's coming up to the hardest braking point any minute to the first chicane. He will be slowing through from 200 miles an hour down to 100 about now in just 1.7 seconds. Looking at the data logging from these cars, well, that's 1.7 seconds from 200 miles an hour down to 100, and yet to us watching it, it all looks so undramatic. A very different story inside the cockpit, I can assure you.
I don't think I need to tell you, but I'm going to just the same, that the enormous crowd here has gone very, very quiet indeed. There were 60